Welcome to this video on searching for clinical guidelines. Today we'll discuss the importance of using clinical practice guidelines, discuss how to find them in PubMed and via the ECRI Trust, and give suggestions for other places you might need to look for them. So to start with, what are guidelines? Quite simply, they are guidance documents that provide recommendations on how to treat or manage conditions based off systematic reviews of evidence. They should summarize the most current medical knowledge as well as weigh the benefits and harms of procedures or treatments, and give specific recommendations to guide clinical practice based on this information. Today we'll discuss finding guidelines in two primary locations. First, PubMed, which is a free and open resource provided by the National Library of Medicine and the NIH. It is the largest biomedical bibliometric database in the world, and bibliometric database means it is made up of journal articles and other primary literature. This is opposed to a point-of-care database like LexiDrug that is made up of summaries of evidence. And while you're at UK, it's important that you remember to enter PubMed from a library website, but we will address that more in just a moment. The next location we'll look for guidelines is the ECRI or ECRI Trust. ECRI is a nonprofit institute. The acronym doesn't really matter. It stands for Emergency Care Research Institute, and that's pretty much outdated because they've shifted to focusing on safety and quality across all healthcare settings. ECRI used to be the contractor in charge of maintaining the government's National Guidelines Clearinghouse that was shuttered in 2016. And once it was discontinued, they kept maintaining a version of it on their own site as a free service, and that is what we are going to look at today. Their site is made up of just guidelines and some systematic reviews, but no other types of literature. In other videos, I've shown you how to access databases from the Pharmacy Research Guide, and you can definitely access PubMed from here. You can also access it from any other library webpage, including the database link on the main Medical Center library page, which is at libraries.uk.edu/locations/MCL. If I click Health Sciences Databases, I can just scroll down and either click Pharmacy to see other pharmacy-related databases, or scroll down and click PubMed directly. It's important to access PubMed via the library website because it will link you to UK's catalog, which you will see momentarily. If you don't do this, you won't be able to access all the full text you should be able to from UK, so don't skip this step. Finding guidelines in PubMed is really a matter of using the search filters, and the easiest way to do this is to just search for a topic you're interested in and then limit the search to the filters you need. And let's look for hypertension in pregnancy. And the best way to do this is just search for pregnancy and hypertension in the search box. And so I'm going to put in pregnancy and make sure you put and in all capitals, and hypertension. But I'm going to stop there for a second, and I want to show you a trick, because if I take the CY off the end of pregnancy and delete it, and I put an asterisk in its place, what this will do is it'll search the trunk of the word, the pregnen, up into the asterisk, and then it'll search any combination of letters after that, which means that this will now search pregnant, pregnancy, pregnant woman, pregnant women, and any other variation that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. And that's a pretty cool trick that really expands and maximizes your results. So I'm going to hit search. And 43,000 results is quite a few. And this is where filters come in, because this is not limited to guidelines yet. And this is where PubMed is kind of annoying. The filters are along the left side. And what you have to do is you want to limit by article type. And you can see that there's nothing here that says guidelines. And so I'm going to actually have to go into where it says additional filters here. So I'm going to click that, and already it defaults to article type. And so I'm going to scroll until I see guidelines, and there are two versions of it. There is practice guideline, which comes up first on the right, and if I keep scrolling, there is guideline here at the bottom on the left. And then I'm going to click show, And all that does is it just shows now guideline and practice guideline on the left. So I'm going to click both of them, guideline first, and then I'm going to click practice guideline. And now my results are limited to 180, and that's quite a few, but it goes all the way back to 1991, and that means there's probably quite a few outdated guidelines in here. So I can use this neat slider here on the left, and I'm going to pull it all the way to, let's say, 2020 or even 2021. And then that limits only to 2026, so that is more manageable. And if I go through, you can already see that I have a 2021 International Society for the Study of Hypertension in Pregnancy. That looks very relevant. Guideline number 426, Hypertensive Disorders of Pregnancy, Diagnosis, Prediction, Prevention, and Management. Here's from New Zealand and Australia, hypertension and pregnancy guidelines. So there's some stuff that doesn't look like it's necessarily directly related, but I am still getting what I want in here. And screening for U.S. hypertensive disorders in pregnancy, U.S. Preventative Services Task Force final recommendation statement. And this is from JAMA from 2023. So this is good stuff. This is what I'm looking for. So if I click into here, you can see that this button View Now at UK is available. And if I click this, I can see the full text options that are available to me as someone who is part of UK. If I had not gone in from the UK website, this would not be available, and I would really not know whether UK provided access to this guideline or not. Now let's jump to the ECRI Trust. You can access it from the PharmD page on the Pharmacy Research Guide. If I go under Evidence-Based Practice, here's ECRI Guidelines Trust. And all you have to do is just search in the search box here. There is nothing special. It is not any kind of fancy database. So really, you're just searching hypertension and pregnancy. And because guidelines are the only thing in here besides systematic reviews, everything comes up pretty immediately. And here is that Australian and New Zealand one that we saw in PubMed as well. So as you can see, it's extremely straightforward. There are some limits on the side where you can limit by year, by organization, but ECRI is basically doing a Google search for guidelines. It is not as totally comprehensive. It relies on people to submit guidelines, but it is still fairly comprehensive. It is still a good site to check, but I would still look other places. If you cannot find something in ECRI, I would not necessarily assume it doesn't exist. It is still a good, reliable resource. To wrap it up, other places you might want to look for guidelines. If you watched our LexiDrug drug searching videos, you may remember that embedded in the monograph entries in LexiDrug in the pediatric, geriatric, and main LexiDrug pages are clinical practice guidelines, if they are available. So you can find them there. They're also in UpToDate if you use that resource as well. I also suggest that you consider looking at professional organizations. If you know the American Heart Association wrote one, then look it up on their site. If you know the American Dental Association wrote one, look it up on their site. One issue with PubMed is that if you do not arrange it by date, you may potentially get an older, not updated one first. It should say in the entry if an updated version has become available, but still, it doesn't do any harm to check the professional organization. Thank you for watching this presentation. If you have any questions, please contact the Medical Center Library at mclib@uky.edu.